We're going to start talking about Java graphics today and introduce some of the basic graphic methods that you can use for your graphics project. Graphics are really exciting, allows us to visualize things rather than just work with the console. So let's talk about something called the Java Swing package first. This is something that the Java language provides for us, albeit we have to import some of these things. There's two things we'll see in our project. One of them is based on a J-frame. The other is the J-panel. So the frame is going to be the outer edges, right, of the window, and the J panel is going to be contained within the J frame. So when we see our starter code, we're going to see a graphics main that is essentially a J frame, and it's just going to be setting up and putting the panel in it. The panel is where we'll be working and writing our code for graphics. So a panel is always going to contain something called a paint component, and the paint component method is called automatically when you create the class containing the paint method, meaning that it's going to automatically do what we say here. So g.setColor is going to set our graphic to blue. The color for our graphic is going to be blue here, and then we're going to draw an oval here, and we'll talk about what these parameters are, but basically they're x, y, and then width and height. So everything that you do in this project, you're going to write within this paint component method. And you're going to want to think of it as the main for the drawing action. So methods you'll use involve very many import statements. So some of them are listed here. You'll see a lot of imports in the starter code. This is so that we can access the code from the Java libraries that contain graphics, color, font, the frame, the panel, etc. So this first table here are some of the basic methods you want to use, like setting color. So color is its own specific class, and we have kind of two ways where we can set color. We're going to set color by giving a color constant, which we'll talk more about in another slide, where we can actually generate a new color based on an RGB value. So there's three parameters for a new color, and you can see here, if we give a value for R, G, and B, we'll generate a color based on that. We could draw a string at a certain spot, so if you pay attention to the parameters, draw string is going to have a string followed by the X and Y positions, and then we have draw oval, which is going to be an unfilled oval at the XY position with that width and height, and a fill oval would be filled. So we'll see this with rectangle as well. They're very similar. Draw oval is unfilled, fill oval is filled with the colors that you chose. For drawing a line from one point to another, you're going to give two sets of coordinates. So x1 and y1 will be your starting point, and we'll draw a line to x2 and y2. Drawing a rectangle is very similar to drawing an oval, and in this case the parameters are the same, but rather than being rounded, we're going to have a rectangle, sharp edges, and again we can have a draw or fill here. Pay close attention to all of these are integers. You're going to want to make sure that you're not giving a double to any of these. So rectangles, some examples here. We're setting the color to blue. We have a fill rectangle at position 150, 300, width 100, height of 20, and then we're setting a new color. So another thing that's important with setting color is it's going to set color for the graphic, anything that follows. So if we want something that's blue, then the next thing we draw is going to change. We need to make sure we set a new color. If we leave that blue, the next thing is going to also be blue. Another really big important aspect of graphics is the window XY coordinates are set up a little different than we're used to. So we're going to see X goes across, that's normal, but Y is going down. So the top left corner is 0, 0, and in this case, we're going to increase as we go down. So for example, if I have fill rect 1050, that's the top left corner of my rectangle. So we're always referencing the top left corner of our shapes that we're drawing. Then we're going to go 30 width and 70 for the height. So that 70 is drawn from the top down. And that's really important to keep in mind that as you're creating a drawing. So some other reminders: the set color sets the color for all the following method calls until you set a new color. And then the graphics are going to be layered on top of one another. So you might cover up something already that you've already drawn if you're not careful about positioning, or you can use that to kind of layer things purposefully to make a cool design. I mentioned that there are color constants that are available. So these are colors you can set by name. You always want to start with the class name, color.cyan, color.gray, for example. There's a table here on the right with all the available options, and for whatever reason, they give you a lower or uppercase version. They're going to give you the same exact color. Notice there's some slight differences in kind of the naming convention, where dark gray has an underscore, lowercase dark gray doesn't. Again, if you want a specific color, you can use g.setColor new color. And then the values you give for these RGB parameters must be between 0 and 255. So you can look at something like a color picker from Google, and you'll be able to like click on the color you want, and it'll tell you the RGB values, and you can use that in your code. So the project itself, you're going to need to download some files. We're going to put these either in a zip file on Blackboard, or possibly Mr. Swope likes to use GitHub, so you might be downloading it from GitHub if you're one of Mr. Swope's students. These files should be added to your graphics project, so you're going to want to set up an Eclipse folder first, drag them to the source folder. I'm going to demo this in another video. You're not going to actually need to edit the graphics main. That is the one you're going to run, and you're only going to edit the paint component by calling graphics methods. So let's take a look at Eclipse real quickly, and you'll see I have graphics main running or already set up. None of this code needs to be changed. The graphics panel has a couple of examples where I have something called the graphics 2D G2 being created. So that's just kind of updating our graphics object that we're working with to be a graphics 2D, which just gives a couple of other methods we could use. So we're going to ask the graphic 2D object G2 to set color. In this case, it's an RGB value. I'm going to fill a rectangle at 7070 with a width of 100 and the height of 300. I'm going to set a new color. So my next position, my next image or drawing will be cyan, and I'm going to fill an oval at 170/70 XY, and it's going to be 300/300. So this is going to demonstrate actually a circle. If the width and height are the same, then you're going to get a circle rather than an oval. And the last thing is an example of drawing a string. So if I draw a string, you can set its color before you draw it. You can also set its font. So this is something that wasn't in the slides, but you can look at this example and see if I can create a new font. It has 3 parameters too. The first one being the name of the font, the second being a style of the font, so like font.italic, font.bold, something like that, font.plain, and then the third being the size. Another thing that's nice is that Eclipse will give you some hints as you're writing some of these things. In addition to that, I have draw string, so now my font is set. It's going to use the string hello, and it's going to be at position 4600. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. And you should see my window pop up. I've got my image, which is a rectangle followed by a cyan circle, and then hello drawn below that. So again, this top left position is the XY. And it's going to reference a similar bounding box for a circle. Although we won't see the top left corner because we're seeing a circle, it's going to reference that as the XY starting position. Okay, so that concludes my little run through of some of the graphics methods. Examples. We're going to go back to the slides and take a look at kind of what you're supposed to do for this. So you're going to draw a picture using this graphics 2D class, and whatever you decide to draw is up to you. It's an opportunity for you to be creative, and it's going to get graded using this rubric here, which basically says turn it in on time, update comments with what you're drawing, within the paint component, your name at the top, all of those things. If you use any variables, which you certainly can do, you can create variables for your parameters and then use them to offset things. Then just make sure those names, variable identifiers are descriptive. You could even go so far as to write methods that draw specific things. You then really just have to make a picture, right? So what that is up to you. You can explore different things and look at the online Java API for graphics methods. I put that link here. The slides are going to be up on Blackboard too. But you definitely should not copy and paste any code from any of these websites. So make it your own, do your own thing, and definitely have fun with it.